I don't know why I did it twice. What I do know is there's a lot of buttons over here that I got to figure out on my own. So sometimes things happen that I can't explain. So that's just where we're at
It
with it.
sounds better the second time.
Did it sound better the second time?
Yeah, it did. So
All
it
right.
sounds better the second time. Yeah.
All right. Well, maybe if I had all of my team in one state in one building, we could probably set this off. But we got to
I know
work
that.
with we got to work with what we
For
got,
one country.
or one country. Yeah, we got to work with what we got, folks. We taking it back to basics today. We're going to talk about three things this hour. One is when you're starting out as a real estate investor, all of the things that you need to understand. There's 12 of them. Your world revolves around these 12 things, and this is just starting out. So we're going to talk about that, and then we're going to get into how to purchase real estate without all the upfront capital. We're going to get into structuring these deals creatively. We got to come back to the basics. We got to come back to the 4 data points. And the 4 data points are 4 questions that we ask when we're trying to determine whether or not a property address is worth our time and energy. Shout out to the 2 people following me on TikTok now that we have our new page. I'm telling you, I'll be wanting to write every follower a thank you letter. Like, do y'all ever want to? No, just me. All right. Well, we got our friends on Clubhouse. We got our friends on Instagram. We got our friends on TikTok, YouTube, and Facebook, and and LinkedIn too. So all my old coworkers can peep. Well, I'm not gonna say that. All right, who we got on stage? We've got Tavares, who I've known for well over 30 years. James, who I've known for well over 30 years. My name is Otis James. I'm a full-time real estate investor out of the San Francisco Bay Area. I'm a long-term hold investor. I invest all over the country, and I teach people how to do the same. I founded the 4 Data Points Academy, which is a real estate investing training platform. We take people from zero knowledge, and they stay on with us until they determine they no longer need us. And then they stay on with us. We just operate in a different capacity. Maybe we'll do some projects together and build some stuff together. But the goal is to create real estate investors, and we are on the road to creating 1,000 of them. I'm a licensed real estate broker in California. I'm a licensed real estate broker in Georgia. I do not operate in that capacity, but I do hold licenses in both states. I've consulted on projects from small flips to, projects that foreign governments I've had to meet with to consult on some projects up at the higher level. I've consulted on projects with a bunch of different municipalities within the United States. I spent the better part of 20 years in the multifamily commercial industry. When I exited that industry, I was overseeing just under $650 million in multifamily commercial assets. I was 3 years old going to real estate meetings with my dad. This is what I do. This is my whole life. I've been exposed to it my entire life. I'm a former mortgage broker. Our team funded just short of $1 billion when we ended that business. And I do a bunch of other stuff, all real estate related. And it is what it is, right? Some of the stuff sounds way more impressive on paper than in real life. But we have a training platform, and my philosophy is teach people everything and then allow them to determine what works best for a particular situation. So we are the only real estate investing training platform that doesn't have an end date, because I'm confident that I can turn you into a real estate investor. James, if you're with us, tell everybody who you are and what you do with the 4 Data Points Academy, and then we'll go to Tavares, and then we will jump in to some of this free, or as the youngsters say, get into the bag, baby. Do they still say that? No, that's
I don't know.
I don't. Okay, all right. Well, all right.
I've never been the
Young.
never been the hip. I know they don't say hip.
Let's throw on some wool sweaters and go out and mow the lawn so we can make James feel at home.
Yeah, it's a turtleneck. Yeah, I still got a couple turtlenecks.
Tell her in Colombia. Okay, that's saying something. What's up, Rose? I see you on TikTok. James, tell everybody who you are and what you do, man.
Good morning or good afternoon, depending on where you are. My name is James Lewis. Look, folks, real estate is a business, and the perspective I bring to the 4 Data Points is as a business coach. So my background, look, the first time I had my own business, it was way back in 1998. I've been very fortunate that I've worked for some of the most successful companies literally on the planet, companies that make up 80, $100 billion a year, as a senior leader. And, one of the things I've learned is the most accomplished, most successful business leaders are not necessarily people running their own businesses, but, running these conglomerates. And so I learned a lot of things, and I take that knowledge and I help people run, start, create, and have success in their own businesses. And so that's what I bring to the 4 data points. I have a particular strategy to do that, just like the 4 data points. And so I am excited to talk about fundamentals. I think there's business fundamentals that I focus on, just like the 4 data points has some real estate fundamentals. And so that is who I am, and that is what I do.
Amen. What's up, realtor Kelsey over on Instagram? She only gonna be on. She got a short attention span, so she only gonna be on for 12 seconds. So I want to get that high real quick. Tavares, are you there, young brother?
Yeah, I'm here. What's up, everybody? Otis, you are a complete fool. What's up, James? I am Tavares from the Bay Area. I am happy to be here. I have spent more than 10 and a half years in the multifamily industry, started off as a concierge, made my way up to a business manager. The pandemic hit, and so I shifted into being a health and transformation educator, founder of the Body Synthesis as well. And I've known these two gentlemen here for quite some time, and I also serve as the manager of student relations here at 4 Data Points Academy. Call me, I'll take care of you. I'm the only one who really cares about you, so call me. I'm just I'm just playing, but I am the CEO, okay? The chief engineer officer is in the building. Let's get it. Look alive, be well, and learn something today.
Yeah, you got to give Black people specific instructions when they introduce themselves, because we we go we go off on the chat. What's up, Tavares? I appreciate you, brother.
What's up, everybody? Y'all look good down there. Let's get it.
All right. So this is what we're gonna do. First, so this is some folks' first time seeing me. So we're gonna break it down on the real estate investing training side. I believe if you can't teach it to a 7-year-old, you probably shouldn't be teaching it. So I have a reputation for simplifying strategies that some people would call complex. So the first thing we're going to do is determine what do you need to be focused on day one when you start as a real estate investor. Now, first of all, I don't recommend people just quit their job and jump into this. And so let me vent for a second. The real estate investing education space, I think, is tainted. I don't think there's enough value offered, and I don't think that people are realistic in their expectations on both sides. One, on the consumer side, but it's not their fault. They don't know what questions to ask, and they don't know what outcomes to expect. On the real estate education training side, you can't have a program for 4 weeks and then tell people to go be great. I've been doing this. Yeah, like I said, I was 3 years old going to reading meetings with my dad, and I've gone through a lot of different things and got a lot of different experience in a bunch of different areas in the real estate investing space. And it's not something you can condense into 4 months, or 4 weeks, or whatever it is. So what we do is we'll train the fundamentals for about 6 to 8 weeks, and then we acknowledge after that is when the learning actually starts. So a lot of what we do is holding people's hand during the real world application of what it is that we're teaching. And some of those relationships, we have people that got their first deal in 2 weeks. We've got people that didn't get their first deal for a year, because life happens. And we have to teach them how to navigate through all of these things, whether good, whether bad, whether their money's up, whether the money's down. As a real estate investor, you have to still be able to hunt even when you lack resources. You guys know that I'm big on mitigating risk. We have people in our real estate family that are of a certain age. The risk tolerance is really, really low. So I'm big on protecting people and putting systems in place so they can protect themselves when I'm not available, hence the 4 data points. Again, 4 data points is 4 questions that we have to answer before we consider any real estate deal, whether it's a 1 bedroom condo or 2,000 unit development. And those 4 questions are: what does it cost? What does it cost to fix up? What's it going to be worth when I'm done? How much income can it generate? Now, James, if you and Tavares could monitor the questions in the chat, I can I can free up. So yes, what is the cost? What does it cost to fix up? What's it going to be worth when I'm done? How much income can it generate? Now, your entire real estate investing world when you start out should be comprised of these 12 things. And let's call them 3 groups of 4. Okay. The first four are the 4 data points. One question takes up each notch, right? So the 4 data points, that's the first 4. You got to be able to assess a deal. The second group of 4 are you got to understand what the basic documents do. All right. And the basic documents that we use are a purchase agreement, right? You got to put offers in on stuff. Promissory note. So if you're going to be dealing with any debt, especially on the creative side, you got to understand what a promissory note is. A deed, there's different types of deed. It's just a transfer document. And a security instrument. Security instrument enforces the note. So, for example, when registered with the county, the security instrument gives whoever defaults on the note the power to foreclose. Well, it gives the lender on the note the power to foreclose. So you got to know what those documents do, right? Purchase agreement, deed, promissory note, security instrument. Are there more documents? Absolutely, but those are the basics. You got to understand what they do. And then the last 4, and I'll go over them all again. The last 4 are the actual systems that we have to use to be able to do what we need to do. As real estate investors, you have to be able to search public records, not just for marketing purposes, but for value purposes. If you have a property in the 1 to 4 unit space, that property is valued based on what similar properties are selling for. So you have to be able to see what similar properties are selling for, and you have to be able to organize the information in a way that's usable, right? So we're talking about running comps. So the 4 systems that we use, I use PropStream. Now I'm a member of a bunch of PropStream's competitors, but PropStream has the best user experience. In my opinion, there are some other ones out there. So let's call it PropStream or one of their competitors. That helps me check public records. I can do postcard campaigns. If I want to skip trace, I can do that. I can come up with a bunch of different lists for any particular area and filter it by property types and all types of other things. And then I can implement marketing campaigns, not just in PropStream, but outside of PropStream. Okay. So that's number 1 on the services that we need to utilize. The second one is rentalmeter.com. Some people say rentometer. I say rentalmeter. Unless everybody else is correcting me, then I'll say the other. But rentometer.com, rental meter, you got to be able to do a rental analysis, because if you're going to keep a property, and we all use financing that is expensive, right? We get it fast, it's higher interest, we're paying more points. There's advantages to that. That's another conversation. We use hard money, or what we call asset-based lending. So if we're going to keep a property, we're typically going to bring in some permanent financing after we're done improving it. And when we have that permanent financing in place, we need to make sure that the property can generate enough income to pay for it, to service that debt, plus some. Well, how do we do that if we don't know what the property is going to rent out for? So we have rentometer.com does a rental analysis. Now, what about the forms that we use, right? Even if it's just to write an offer, maybe it's a lease agreement, whether it's a 3-day notice or whatever it is on the landlord side, we've got to have eForms or Rocket Lawyer just to do the basics, right? The more complicated stuff, I'll have an attorney draft these documents, but just for the basics, eForms or Rocket Lawyer. That runs you about $37 a month, give or take. PropStream runs you about just under $100 a month. If you reach out to me, I'll give you my discount link, and you get it for a few dollars cheaper. And Rentometer, I don't know. I forgot how much Rentometer goes for. I haven't paid for it in so long. I don't know. I think it's like $97 a year or something. Like, I don't know what it is. Don't quote me on that. So the systems we use: PropStream, rentometer.com, eForms, or Rocket Lawyer. The fourth one, and again, I'm going to go through all 12 again. The fourth one is we've got to have a landing page. If we are generating conversations and we are reaching out to people that have property that we want to buy, we have to be able to send them somewhere, and not just with a phone number. So we need to have a landing page. And if you are going to do a landing page, make sure it's functional. That landing page has to have a contact form. That contact form should have a place where they put the property address. That should be linked to your email. So when you're driving down the street and you get an alert, it says, hey, somebody just filled out your contact form. You can pull over and get prepared for the call. Whereas if you're just using your phone number and not a website, when people call you, you're not going to know how to service that call, right? You get a call right now. Hey, Otis. Hey, I just got your postcard. This is John Schmuckatelli over at 123 Main Street. Says you want to make me an offer. I can't have that conversation right then. Now I'm good enough to where I can build some rapport, but at best, all I'm going to be able to do is schedule another call. Whereas if I pull over and I have that property address, I can pull up that property address and run the 4 data points and figure out what it costs or what am I willing to pay? What's it going to cost to fix up? What's it going to be worth when I'm done? How much income can it generate? So if I had to, so all 12, the first 4 of the 4 data points, that is week 1. Do not engage in a real estate. Yeah, Canadian Bay, you can borrow $10,000. Don't cash the check though, because you're going to jail. If I have to go through all 12, you're not going to move until you can assess a deal. You got to be able to determine whether a deal is going to be profitable. You got to be able to determine whether a deal is going to be in your buy box. It's not always about, is the deal a good deal or a bad deal? Sometimes it's just a deal and you have to determine whether or not it's good enough for you. So the first 4 are the 4 data points. The second 4 are the documents: purchase agreement, promissory note, security instrument, deed. Understand what they are. And you guys that are in our real estate family, I know you guys know most of this, but I have lessons for you that outline all of these things. So if you need help finding it, let me know. And then the last 4 are the everyday services that we need to be able to conduct business: PropStream, Rentometer.com, eForms or Rocket Lawyer, and a landing page or a website. Now, before people start getting overwhelmed and spending money they don't have to, just focus on the training first. Just focus on how to assess a deal. If you want to know how to assess a deal, I'm going to put it in the chat. James, can you put in the chat 4datapoints.net? So www.4datapoints.net. That is, and I'll put it on Instagram.
Hey, yo, it's already in the chat.
Okay, cool. Thank you.
Got it.
All right. Now I just did something on Instagram. I don't know. The whole thing just went black. So I don't know. We'll see what happens with that. I don't know if they can still hear me, but something's happening over there. All right. Now that we understand those 12 things, now let's get into the buying the real estate with no upfront capital. What's up, Tracy Wiggins on Facebook? I see you. With no upfront capital. If you guys are on Instagram, just put a 1 in the chat if you can actually still see me. I think we're still good to go. But all right. So let's talk about structuring deals creatively. Now, I need somebody, let me get somebody from the audience. Somebody from the audience, come up, raise your hand. I need a volunteer for this. For my Clubhouse audience. Just raise your hand. Come on.
Don't be afraid.
Don't be afraid. Jeremiah, Keisha, Joan. I said, y'all in the real estate family, Jeffrey. Y'all, you better come on.
Who wants to come up?
All right, Nicholas. Oh, what's up, Nick? All right, so bring Nick up. All right, y'all got to bear with me. I'm doing Clubhouse on the Android again. Remy Jules, what's going on, Remy? I'm doing Clubhouse on the Android again, so there may be some latency. All right, who do we got? Who's the first one up?
Yo, can you hear me?
There we go. Nick. What's going on, Nick?
Yo, I'm doing Clubhouse on an Android too, so allow me some grace.
Right on. All right. So Nick, let's say we're going to get into structuring these deals creatively. Let's talk about a conventional purchase. And before I do this, let's look at what's the concept behind structuring deals creatively, right? What's the concept? So there's 4 components when we're talking about structuring deals creatively, and there's a lot of different ways that you guys can do this, right? There's a bunch of different strategies you can put together. It's called dovetailing, but it's basically 4 things. The first thing is always going to be, you got to be able to assess the deal. You got to be able to assess the deal. Okay. That's the 4 data points. You got to be able to run the 4 data points on that deal. The second component is taking control of the property before you have to pay for it. That is the magic pill, getting your name on the deed before you have to pay it. Because if you don't do number 2, if you don't get your name on the deed before you have to pay it, then you can't borrow funds against the property because you don't own it, which takes us to number 3, borrowing funds to make the property worth more than you bought it for. And number 4 is exit. So when we're structuring deals creatively, we have to, and I'm talking about paying out of your exit strategy, right? You guys see a lot of the clickbait stuff, buy properties for $0, buy property for $1. They're just talking about paying out of your exit strategy. So that's what we're doing here. So again, 4 components to structuring a deal creatively. On the basic side, you got to be able to assess it. Component number 1. Component number 2, you got to have the property put in your name before you pay for it. Now, component number 3, you got to be able to make it worth more than you bought it for or that you agree to buy it for. And component number 4 is exit. Now, if you are going to have a property deeded over to you before you pay for it, you better be able to articulate what you're trying to do to somebody that's a non-investor, and you better be able to articulate how you're going to protect that person so when they deed it over to you, you can't just run off, which is why we talk about understanding the documents. Okay. Now, if I get into this conversation with somebody, the first thing I explain to them is, hey, look, if you deed the property over to me, I have these documents in place to protect you. We're going to have a closing company, either an escrow and title company or a closing attorney. We're going to have a closing company facilitate the entire process so you know you're protected, right? And then we implement, security instrument and a promissory note, depending on how we structure it, right? You can do it a number of ways. But those are the 4 components of structure the deal creatively. Assess it, take control of it, meaning get your name on the deed before you have to pay for it. Value add, make it worth more than you bought it for, and exit, right? Exit out of it, which means you either sell it or you do a cash out refinance to bring in more favorable financing and pay off all your debts, including what you owe the seller. Okay. Now, Nicholas, let's say, let's say you have a house and that house is in a neighborhood where houses are selling for $200,000. Okay. And let's say it just needs some cosmetic work, right?
Not here in Colorado, but we could pretend.
Yeah, well, I'm in the San Francisco Bay Area, so I do a lot of pretending with these numbers. Let's say it needs some cosmetic work. Let's say 20 grand, right? And we'll say that it'll rent out for, 200,000. We'll say it'll rent out for $1,700 a month. And we'll say you and I have agreed you've agreed to sell me the property for 100,000. Okay. Now I'm going to write 1, 2, 3, 4 data points. What does it cost? 100,000. What does it cost to fix up? 20 grand. What's it going to be worth when I'm done? 200,000. How much can it rent out for? How much income can it generate? 1,700. Now, let's go through the traditional route, whether we're going through hard money or a conventional bank or whatever it is. I'm going to have to come in with a down payment, typically 20%, because if I put down less than 20%, I got to pay for mortgage insurance. So I got to come up with 20%, and then the lender will finance the rest. Now, even with hard money, if I got to come in with 20%, that's $20,000. Okay. And the hard money lender will typically finance 100% of the rehab, which is great. If I have that 20%, if I go to Chase or B of A or wherever, they're not going to finance 100% of it, not for investment property. So I've got to come up with the 20%. All right. Now, lenders have a term called LTP. It's LTP. It's called it means loan to purchase. It is the loan amount relative to the purchase price. Hold on one second. It was the loan amount relative to the purchase price. Okay. So if the purchase price is 100,000, the lender says LTP is 80%. That means that they are only going to finance 80% of that purchase price. Just like I said before, I got to come in with the 20%. Now, LTV, loan to value, is the loan relative to the appraised value of the property. Okay. There's a difference. Our property is probably worth more than $100,000, but the lender doesn't care because you don't own it. It is a purchase. They're only going to finance a percentage of the purchase price. Once you own it and you get financing, they'll have it appraised and they'll finance a percentage of the appraised value. So there's a difference. So when we're coming the normal way, no bells, no whistles, we're approaching it as a consumer. I got to come up with $20,000 to buy it. Lender will finance the rest. And then I can exit the normal way, meaning I pay that $20,000 plus closing costs. Lender finances the rest. I close. The lender pays the $20,000 for the rehab, and once it's worth $200,000, then I can either sell it or do a cash out refinance for 80% of that, which is $160,000, and pay off anybody that needs to be paid off. All right. Now notice I had to have $20,000 to even have that conversation, right? I had to have $20,000. What if you don't have $20,000? And as a real estate investor, there's a lot of reasons you wouldn't have $20,000 because you're probably spread out on multiple projects, or maybe something didn't come through, or maybe you're on a project that you're over budget on. Lots of different reasons. But as real estate investors, we still got to be able to hunt, right? We still got to be able to put food on the table. So if we still got to be able to put food on the table, we got to figure out how to get this property without having to come up with the 20 grand. So remember, 4 components of structuring a deal creatively. One is assess the deal. We already did that. What does it cost? What does it cost to fix up? What's it going to be worth when I'm done? How much income can it generate? What does it cost? 100 grand. What does it cost to fix up? 20 grand. What's it going to be worth when I'm done? 200 grand. How much income can it generate? 1,700. Now I'm buying this property from Nick. So me and Nick are in contract for $100,000. I get Nick on the phone. Ding. Nick says, hello.
Hello.
Hey, Nick. Hey, I appreciate you working with me on this deal, man. I think I may have a way to put another $10,000 in your pocket on this. You got a second?
Yeah.
Yeah. So I've got to rearrange some things concerning some other deals so I can bring some money over to this side. I'll tell you what. If you'll go ahead and transfer ownership, and I'll protect you with that debt, that $100,000 debt, we'll go ahead and attach it to the property. So if I get hit by a bus tomorrow, you can foreclose and get it back if I don't honor my end of the deal. So we'll go ahead and do that the most legitimate way possible. We'll go ahead and put a note together. That's the evidence of our debt. And then I will have the closing company record a security instrument with the county. So you will be attached to the property as the lender. I will be attached as the owner, but that's going to allow me to bring funds over. And when I bring these funds over, then when I exit out of this property, not only will I pay you the $100,000 that you and I agreed on, and that's going to be in writing, but I'm going to increase it to $110,000. It'll probably delay our closing for about 60 days. My question to you is a 60-day delay worth $10,000 in your pocket?
I'd say 60 days is worth 10K.
Yeah, I mean, you're not going to make 10K anywhere else in 60 days, right? With such little work. So Nicholas and I agree. I have Nicholas deed the property over to me. Now, there could be a mortgage on it. There could not be a mortgage on it. There's a way to do it either way. Now, let's say there is a mortgage on it and he deeds the property over to me. That's going to trigger the due on sale clause that the lender has in place, violate the mortgage agreement. The lender may call and say, we want all our money now. And you got 90 days to get it to us. Now, in certain cases, I don't care because I'm going to exit in less than 90 days anyway. So I'll be paying that off anyway, but maybe I don't want to risk it. All right. So if there's a mortgage on it, I would do the same thing, but I would transfer it into a trust instead of transferring it into my LLC's name or my personal name, obviously. All right. So now I own the property. Nick already deeded over to me. I haven't paid Nick yet, but now that I own it, I can go back to that same lender that was only going to give me 80% of the purchase price. I can go back to that same lender and now they're going to give me 80% of the value. Well, what's the value of this? Well, we already data point number 3. What's it going to be worth when we're done? 200,000.
200K.
200K, right? So what's 80% of 200K? 160,000. 160,000 bucks. So I refinance for 160,000 bucks. The new lender wires that money into escrow. What do you think is going to happen in escrow when that money gets wired in? They're first going to see what liens are attached to the house. And they're going to see Nicholas. They're going to see Nick's lien. Oh, well, there's a lien on here for $110,000 in favor of Nicholas or Nicholas's LLC or whatever he used, right? So they're going to pay that off, the $100,000 plus the $10,000 incentive. That's going to leave me with 40,000, right? 160,000 minus 110. I'm sorry, it's going to leave me with 50,000. Now I got $50,000 left after that is paid off, but the old hard money lender also paid for the rehab, right? Also paid for the rehab. If I didn't use a hard money lender because we just did the switch and didn't have to, then I would take $20,000 over the new funds and then take the improvements from that. Okay. Either way, either I'm going to do it now or I would have had to pay somebody back that already did it. It's still going to cost me 20 grand. So let's recap. I own the property. I did a cash out refinance for 80% of the value. That's 160,000. I executed a note and security instrument, which is the debt I had for Nicholas, and the security instrument attached it to the property. So when that $160,000 loan comes in, that $160,000 mortgage comes in, the closing company is going to look and see what debts are on the property. They're going to pay those off. The $20,000 for the rehab is going to come out of that too. So I'm at 160. I owe Nick 110. That puts me down to 50 grand. I got to take care of the rehab. That's 20 grand. That puts me down to 30 grand. And then plus closing costs. And I'll just say 10,000 for closing costs. It's going to put me at 20 grand, maybe even a little more. But let's say it puts me at 15 grand. All right. But the point is, when I exit out of that property, I'm now left with a $160,000 mortgage. I've got 20 grand in my pocket, tax free because it's not a taxable event. And Nick is paid. Nick got his $100,000 that we agreed for the purchase and an additional $10,000 for working with me. Right now, keep in mind, when you do this or anything like this, you better be able to compensate the seller for doing it. Otherwise, why would they do that for you? They could just sell it on the open market and do things that are a lot less trouble. Right. So we want to make sure that we ran the 4 data points so we know what our margin's going to be. We know how profitable it's going to be. I knew as soon as I bought that property for $100,000 and I saw that it was going to be worth 200, I had some room to work as far as giving Nick some incentives. Right. So Nick agreed. And now we take our ball, we go home. Right. Everybody's happy. Now, Nick made $10,000 more than he would have. And I was able to avoid paying $20,000. And because we structured it creatively, I made $20,000 on that deal. Now, that's a small deal, right? Small deal. But when you're starting out, that's a great experience, right? And being able to understand not just how to do it, but how to communicate it to somebody that's not well versed in real estate investing or some of these strategies. So that's why I said, look, master the 4 data points first to see what you can do. Right? Master the 4 data points to see what you can do. The second thing is, after you've mastered the 4 data points, practice on explaining it to other people. All right. Because if people can't understand what it is you're trying to do, you could be the most savvy real estate investor in the world. The answer is going to be no. Okay. The answer is going to be no. Right. So that is how we purchase real estate out of our exit strategy. So we don't need the upfront capital. Now, thank you for letting me borrow you, Nick. Now,
You had me at 10K, Otis.
now, I have a problem. Hold on, let me sip my. I have a problem with people being sold a dream, and so we chant all the time. Just because something is possible doesn't mean it's likely. And what I see out there, and again, this is just marketing, so I get it. I'm not saying these companies are shady, but they'll highlight, hey, you can buy a house we'll teach you how to buy property with no money out of your own pocket. Okay, there's some truth to that, but you got to get somebody to agree to it on the other side. And how are you going to get into the conversation? So it still takes money to be a real estate investor. But once you have the education, you don't have to use as much of it if you have the knowledge and the opportunity. Right now, with starting out, I wouldn't create a business model around buying houses with no capital. All right. We want to have that in our tool belt just in case the opportunity presents itself. But keep in mind, just because something is possible doesn't mean it's likely. It may not cost money to buy that house, but how did you get into the conversation? How'd you have the conversation? How'd that person find out who you were? Were you just at the grocery store and you guys just happened to be in the same line and you was buying a bag of pork rinds and you overheard somebody say, man, I sure wish I could sell my house creatively to somebody. No, it doesn't work like that. So you are putting money into marketing. So the companies that do make this a business model, they're putting $30,000 to $40,000 a month in marketing. I'm not doing that. I'm just not. I'm not doing that. All right. So understand those are the guys that you're competing with to have the conversations. Now, when you guys come into the 4 Data Points Academy, after we get through the fundamentals, what I do is I put myself in your position, and whatever your resources are, whatever your knowledge is, I put myself as you, and then we come up with a plan to be able to level up from where you are to the next level. So we have a structured curriculum. Yeah, we always will. But then there's a component that's flexible and only applies to the actual person. So if you don't know what area of real estate investing you want to get into, it's my job to show you all of them, and you can determine what works best for you. I tell people, look, how much money do you want to make a month? And you guys, I had this story. You guys have heard this before. I was talking to a young lady, and she was shopping 3 companies. It was the 4 Data Points Academy, and there were 2 other ones. I won't say their name. They are a much bigger outfit. They're the guys that come to town, and they come to town, and you get the postcard that says free seminar. Um, yeah, let me not. So I won't say their names, but they have salespeople and they have a lot of overhead, which is why their programs cost $50,000 to join, $30,000 to join, and you don't get half the support that we give. The average person is not going to be able to do that. All right, they're just not. And I didn't get into this business to leave those people out. Hence why I've been teaching this stuff for 4 years for free online, right? So people, even if they're not in a position to get mentorship, they at least get some knowledge, at least enough to protect themselves so they're not sold a dream. And a lot of people in our real estate investing at the 4 Data Points Academy, a lot of folks came from other programs. I've been recruited from other programs. I've been asked by some of these other outfits to do their TV shows and all this other stuff. And the answer is always no, because I don't feel like they respect me as a legitimate competitor. But that's another conversation. But my point is, these guys are putting a lot of money into making you believe the possible is likely, and it's not. What's going on, Tamara? Now, when we get into the apartment buildings, because it's my wish that everybody gets up to investing in apartment buildings. And if one person is not able to invest in an apartment building on their own, then we can put a group of people together and they can invest in an apartment building. The math just works better. But it's always good to understand the residential stuff, because you may have to come back. You may need an influx of cash. If we need cash, I'll just get 5 people together and we'll just go flip something. I'll take the lead on it. I'll take 5,000 up front because I'm probably flying out there back and forth. And then I'll take 10% of the profit and I'll give them 90%, which is not a lot of it's not a lot of money in it for me. But these folks are in my real estate family, so we want to create opportunities and we get to build trust and work together and do all these amazing things, in the future. So when you guys are looking into becoming real estate investors, don't just do what you see on the internet. Have a call with somebody that's actually doing it and tell them what your expectations are. So goes back to the lady that was shopping 3 of us, right? It was me and 2 bigger outfits. And they asked her some of the same questions. I know the scripts, right? I don't do a script. I just have real conversations with people, but I'm familiar with the scripts. And, the lady said, I want to make $30,000 a month. And both of them said, absolutely, we can make that happen for you. All right. So when she got on the phone with me, she goes, well, I said, okay, well, where are you trying to go? Like, what's a realistic amount per month for you to make? Because I wanted to see where her head is at. She said, I want to make $30,000 a month. And, she said, I want to do it within the first 24 months. I want to be making $30,000 a month. That's what she said. And that's what she told the other guys. And the other folks, they were like, yeah, cool, we could do that. I told her, no, you're not going to do it. It's not realistic. Just first of all, how do you want to make it? Do you want it active or passive? Because the way she was talking was she wanted it passive, which means mailbox money. So I said, okay, let's look at let's look at that. Okay. Let's look at your first deal. It's going to take you 30 days to buy it and close on it. Okay. And let's just say it's a flip. It's going to take you 6 to 8 weeks for the value add, right? So that's 30 to close, 2 months for the value add. And if you're selling it, that's going to take you another, let's say, let's be optimistic. Let's say another 30 days to get in contract, right? Because people are touring it and you got an agent, you got that whole thing. So it's another 30 days. So you're in 4 months already. And then you got a buyer. That buyer is going to need 30 to 45 days to close. You're already in 5.5 months. Okay. So, and you're only doing one project at a time. And that is a sale. So yes, let's say you made $50,000 in pure profit on that deal. Well, it took you 5.5 months and it's $50,000 that you're making one time. Now, let's say instead of selling it, you did a cash out refinance and you ran the numbers on it.
Unknown call.
So you did a cash out refinance, you ran the numbers on it, and you saw that it'll cash flow $500 a month. That means after you pay off all of your obligations, you make $500 a month. Well, that is outstanding. So you're still in 5.5 months, but instead of the 30 to 45 days that the buyer is going to take to buy it, the lender is going to take to close on it for you, right? You got to go through the lending process. So you're still around 5 months. But now you've generated $500 a month in perpetuity. That $500 a month isn't going anywhere, barring, evictions and things like that, right? So $500 a month. It took you 5 months to put that into place. Now you could have made some money on the cash out refinance, right? After you paid off all the debt, maybe there was some left over, but your passive income is $500 a month, 5 months. So how many of those deals, how many of those $500 a month do you have to do to get $30,000? It's just not doable. Now, $30,000 a month, that is what, $420,000 a year? What is 30 times 10 is 300,000 plus another 60,000, so 360,000, right? I still need 6 credits to graduate junior high if I ever go back. So just if my math ain't math, and it's show me some grace. So 360,000 in 1 year. Now, let's say this same person she gets good and she can do 3 flips in 1 year. She's averaging $50,000 a flip. Or it's a long-term hold and she's using the Burr method, right? Doing cash out refinances. She still wouldn't do it in 24 months. The first 2 years, you should be looking at $5,000 to $10,000 a month, right? Now, there's going to be some times where you make 60,000, 70,000 at one time, but we're talking about passive. Passive means you are only going to the mailbox to get checks. Active is the rehab process and the activity that puts that asset in a position to pay you every month with the check, right? So you got to get active with the acquisition. You got to get active with the rehab. You got to get active with the, getting it leased out. All that is active, and then you can step away and just get the mailbox money. So her situation, her expectations were not realistic. Okay, they just were not realistic. But I told her, and she ended up not joining. She ended up joining later though, because she joined one of those other programs and realized I was telling the truth about some things, and she ended up coming. And what I used to do was the so there were some people that got mistreated so bad on some of these programs, and some of them were older, right? Older, and they're not going to recover. So there were 2 ladies that I'm not going to say the program's name, and keep in mind, folks, those other programs exist to their businesses. They exist to generate revenue. They don't prioritize turning you into a real estate investor over revenue. We prioritize turning you into a real estate investor over revenue. At least we into as much as we can, right? Much as we can. So she had been she got swindled, in my opinion, right? And so I stepped in and I told her, hey, look, and she was following me on Clubhouse or one of these platforms for like a couple years. And I don't know why she ended up going to somebody else instead of coming to me first. But I told her, I said, hey, look, this is what your expectations were, because we had a conversation about it. This is what they said that they were going to teach you, and they did. Okay. So you can't be upset at them for not giving you endless support. Now, there were some things that they did that were a little shady, right? But it wasn't, maybe unethical, but not illegal. All right. So I said, I'll tell you what, I'll mentor you, and you just send me a receipt for what you paid them, and then I'll give you that credit to join our program. And she sent me the receipt, and it was like $20,000 over what it cost to be in our program. And our program was so much better. So I ended up mentoring this woman for free later on, for free. And I'm not gonna say her name, but she's in our real estate family right now. As a matter of fact, shoot, I think I saw her in this room right now. All right.
Hey, speaking of which, so we do have somebody in the audience that's asking about the program. She's also asking about doing loans, offering loans to commercial and multifamily property. So Not sure she's also interested in investing, so we'll have to see. But
Yeah.
and then there's a second question about what type of trust do you want to put the property in. So if you want to speak to both of those.
Yeah, so I'll typically just put it in a land trust or a real estate privacy trust is what they also call it. And when we utilize a trust, then I'll have the beneficiary, another one of my LLCs, and depending on how far I want to go, the managing member of that LLC may be a holding company. But I always bring in the qualified professionals to coach me on whatever I need to do at a particular time. Now, if I'm doing the same thing over and over, I don't need to do that. But there's three things that I want to accomplish with every single deal. One is I want to have tax favor, right? I want to be in the best position from a tax perspective. Liability protection is very, very important to me. And what's most important to me is anonymity. I don't want anybody knowing what I own. I don't want to own anything, right? Because if something happens, somebody comes after me, then they need to be limited to the insurance associated with that thing. And if they try to come after me, they'll realize I don't own anything. So they're going to be peeing in the wind, as we call it, right? As far as our real estate program, as far as our program goes, because you said you wanted to know about that. So we take a different approach, and it ranges from around $6,000 to $12,000 depending on how much support, but we always create a space for people that don't have one-on-ones, because you can have a group environment and then you can have one-on-ones, and I can only take so many one-on-ones at one particular time. Now we have other people in our program that that teach and do some other things. We're also expanding into leadership, personal development, and sales training. So I brought in Dr. Alfred Smith, who's going to be leading up some of those charges. But basically, if I had to sum it up, I'd say, look, we teach you how to invest in real estate, and we don't stop teaching you until you no longer need us to, period. So it's not a program you go through. We have a structured curriculum, but we're always adding new curriculum. We're always adding new lessons. So once people are in our real estate family, they're in it, period. In it, period. And a lot of other companies don't do that because it costs them too much to do that. I know that because I know how much it costs me. And we don't have people keep paying, right? They pay once and they're in. And we've had people that paid, they were active for a year. Life happens, they tapped out for a year and a half, then they came back in. We just started them right back where they left off, because we grade ourselves based on how many people we turn into real estate investors, not how much money we make doing it. Which is probably why all those people that be trying to recruit me, they got boats. Just one of them has a plane. That's probably why. So I can see it. I can see it, but I got a long-term vision for what we're trying to do. And my long-term vision is to have so much power and influence, and all of these people in our real estate family that we know, like, and trust. I want to be able to go into communities and change the economic landscape in some of these disenfranchised communities without them even knowing that we were here. I don't want to have to go and ask banks for anything, because I don't trust banks. They're not my friends. I don't want to ask municipalities or the government for anything, because I don't trust them, and they are not looking out for my best interest. I don't care which way you vote. Okay. So I want to be able to have our own fund. I want to be able to manage properties for people in our real estate family. I want to be able to finance their projects, because I can look at their projects and see if it's really going to pencil out, and then I can assess the risk better than some underwriter sitting behind a desk somewhere, because I actually do this. And I want to start creating programs, financial literacy programs for people that aren't in a position to be able to pay. Maybe if they were financially literate or better in that area, then maybe they would be in a position to pay and improve their quality of life. So there's a bunch of different things that I want to do, all surrounding real estate. But the first mission is to create real estate investors, right? Create real estate investors. So I've got a long-term vision, but there's people that have been rocking with me for 3 and 4 years, and a lot of them are in these rooms. And you can ask them. We try to be perfect, and if there is an area where I feel like we can improve, I'll call a meeting and say, hey, we made some updates into this part of the program. Or I may call a meeting to say, okay, look, a lot of you guys haven't been that active. Is there anything keeping you from making a move? Like, all of those things are part of being in our real estate family. And I have the background and the education and the experience to be able to actually execute the stuff that I'm teaching. I'm a real estate investor first. So, I use my real estate investing to supplement the program. Meaning, if I do a great deal and I cash out on it, I'm not going out and buying Lambos and all this other stuff. I'm putting it into our programs to improve the systems and automations and all these other things. So it's a lot more than that. But I am going to turn you into a real estate investor, and I put that in writing for as long as it takes. I don't care if it takes a year. I don't care if it takes 6 years. I don't care if it takes 10 years, because I know that I can do it. The only way you're not going to become a real estate investor is if you give up, because I can't chase people down. Right? We have some people that started our program and then I just never heard from them again after like 3 or 4 months. That's their choice to be able to do that. But I still have to create a space for them to come back anytime that they're ready, and train them and make sure that they can actually execute this stuff. So I know that was a long answer. I could just send you to our website and get you the brochure, but we do so many things that are not on our website, that are not on our brochure, because we don't know what you're going to need as a real estate investor when you get out there in the real world. So I have to be prepared to support you with anything and everything that you may need, right? And sometimes that means doing your contract for you. Sometimes that means helping you with your scope of work. Sometimes that means helping you form an entity, a disposable entity to use or one particular deal. Like we don't know what it's going to be, and you don't always know what questions to ask. So I ask the questions. I have a line of questioning with everything to get it out of you. Okay. So when people come to me and they say, "Hey, I want to be a real estate investor," they don't have to have any knowledge. Matter of fact, the less knowledge they have, the better, because then it's like a blank canvas. And I've already taken all the punches on the chin, so you guys don't have to. So again, an enormously long answer to a wonderfully short question. Did I answer it, James, or did I leave something out?
Yeah, she also asked about the cost.
It's 6 to 12 grand. 6 to 12. But that's also prorate that. That's also period. It's all forever, right? So, I mean, I'm very transparent about the cost and what you get for that. Amanda says, if my husband and I were to join your company, would we need 2 separate memberships or one? No. So we actually encourage people to join together. All right. So if it was a husband and wife, they would just join under one. We've got a bunch of husband and wife teams, and they are killing it, man. Uh, I don't. We don't, hype up the statistics too much, right? Because people are in different situations. So you don't see me posting everybody else's successes on my Instagram for marketing purposes and all that. It just feels like a little tacky to me. There's nothing wrong with that. It just weirds me out a little bit to use somebody else's success for my own benefit. But I will say one of the statistics that is astounding is the success rate with husband and wife teams. And I've seen it bringing them closer together. And they are just tearing it up. So yeah, we encourage that. Even mother and daughter, right? Father and son, mother and son, father and daughter. We encourage them to join as a unit because we understand the importance of family support. And plus, I want the husbands to get involved too, because imagine how this sounds when you go to your husband, ladies. Hey, I was on Instagram and TikTok, and I saw this real estate guy. He sounds like he really knows what he's talking about. Uh, he charges $6,000 to join his mentorship program. If I was the husband, I'd be like, hell no, we're not doing that. Is it another guru? Is it another guru, babe? Is that what it is? You found another guru on. So I tell people, look, don't just go swipe your credit card on our website. Have a conversation with us first. We are 100% transparent. We've had to turn some people away from our program because, we felt that I don't know. I don't know how to say this in a nice way. We felt that they were making a poor financial decision given their circumstances at the time, and that the resources they had should have been allocated for something more important that they needed to take care of. So it's not a money grab over here. If people try to stretch it and and it just creates more stress for everybody, right? This is not get rich quick, right? There's no secret formula. Believe me, I've been doing this all my life. I was overseeing $650 million in multifamily commercial assets. So even the biggest guys on the planet, I'm right on par with the knowledge, if not exceedingly, right? So, trust me, when we have that conversation, we manage people's expectations. Right now, you can get rich in real estate investing, right? Easily, really. Like making $1 million is really, really easy. But the hardest thing to get over is the mentality to be able to do that. $6,000 is a lot of money to you, and it's rightfully so. That is a lot of money to some people. There were times in my life where $5,000 would have been life changing for me, right? But if 6,000 is a lot of money for you, then you shouldn't. I wouldn't recommend getting into real estate investing. I just wouldn't. You're going to put yourself in a really tough position. Um, we appreciate the vote of confidence, and of course, we love the business. But again, I don't want people joining our program and then struggling because they didn't pay something else that was important. So there you go. Again, that's my.
Let me let me let me comment on that.
Go ahead,
I want to
James.
qualify that. If $6,000 is a lot of money relative to what you have, then everything you just said is true. If $6,000 is a lot of money mentally, that's a whole different conversation,
Yeah, I should have made
right?
that distinction.
Like that's and that's the thing that we deal with too, where like look, the reality is if you've got to renovate a property, renovation is going to be what 30, 40, 50, 60,
70, 70.
$100,000, right?
Yeah.
So if you're tripping off $6,000 and you got a $70,000 renovation on one of your property, your mindset is not right, right? Like we got to work on that. I mean, the most important investment you're going to make is not in the property you're buying; it's in the knowledge and skill that you need to be a real estate investor in the first place. It's investing in yourself, right? I think I spend a lot of time, both of us, Otis, right? Spend a lot of time developing people, which is really what this is about, right? We have this conversation and it ends up being a real estate conversation, but it really isn't about real estate. It's about people, right? We're developing people. And, so many times we're dealing with people's fears and, people's self-image and, people's mindsets and, in people's relationship with money. And you've got to get to a place where you want to invest in yourself, where you're excited to invest in yourself, where you say to yourself, hey, man, I get to invest in myself to make some improvements, to be the person I want to be. So $6,000 is nothing. I like the story you always tell about
Tony
when
Robbins.
you went to Tony Robbins, yeah, man, because I think that's such a apropos for this type of situation. But the $6,000 is nothing, man. Seriously, nothing. It's a drop in the bucket.
That was one of the most embarrassing moments in my adult life, by the way. You guys all heard the Tony Robbins story, right? Put a 1 in the chat if you have not heard it. I'll tell you real quick. It was a very embarrassing situation for me. Put a 1 in the chat, Clubhouse, if you want me to tell that story. If not, then I'll move on. But all right, nobody, 1 person, 2 people. All right. So this is what happened. You guys know Tony Robbins, motivational speaker. He's so much more than that. He's a really good dude, man. I got the opportunity to go to one of his events, Unleash the Power Within. I went to the Date with Destiny event out in Florida. I went to the Life Mastery event out in Fiji and Wealth Mastery event out in Fiji. So this was like 6 or 7 years ago. I think it was 2019. And I have a good friend named Dimitri Mills. And so we all grew up together. It was me, Tavares, you guys see on stage, James. Like I've known Tavares since we were 10 years old, and I'm 49 now. And Dimitri, I met when we were about 18 years old, because I think maybe we were dating the same girl or something like that, right? But Dimitri always, you ever had that one friend that always had their stuff together? He was always squared away. Like he always had a nice car, first one to get a house. I think he worked in tech or something like that, college educated. Like this brother always had it together, while the rest of us were out here running a muck. So Dimitri, I started getting myself together, obviously, right? So I started making some money. And in my intro, I told you guys about all the real estate stuff, but I also took $585 and went on to put together a company that went on to generate 7 figures in the short time that I had it. So I had some money, but I still had a poor mindset. right? I really did. Not as poor as it was, but poor enough to keep me from reaching my maximum potential. So we go to unleash the power within. And Dimitri says, he convinces me to go. He says, look, you're going to love this. And at this point, I was like, I was into personal development. So I'm like, all right, cool. Let's go out there. How much are tickets? He was like, $800. I was like, cool, $800. Now, I paid $900 to see Bruno Mars, so I thought, if I'm paying $800, and I was up front. So if I'm paying $800, I'm thinking I'm going to be front row right in front of Tony Robbins, right? Like we can make eye contact, right? He can see me and be like, that guy's impressive. I can maybe look back. And we get to this place and we're getting shown to our seats. And we go to the usher, and the ushers at these events, for you guys that haven't been there, they're successful business people. So they show me to my our seat, and I say there's a mistake. I'm a VIP. So this $800 is a VIP ticket. So I got a VIP mindset right now, right? Folks, how we get when we get some money and we get some new money. So I'm like, I have an arrogance about me that money is no object. So I said, look, I turned into Karen. First of all, this is we're way up here on the side. We're not even on the floor. We're not even on the first level. She goes, well, yeah, that's your VIP ticket. That's where, because they're all color coded. I was like, all right, but what's one of them red tickets the people below us have? She goes, oh, that's VIP deluxe. So I said, okay, I see. Okay. Okay, well, what does it cost for me? I want to be on the floor. So if I'm not just going to upgrade to VIP deluxe, put us on the floor. She said, oh, well, that's great. Those are our platinum members. I was like, fine, put us on the where the platinum members are. She goes, all right, we have a special running today on that. And when you got some money and they say we have a special, you go straight into, well, do I look like I need a special? Matter of fact, I don't even want the special. I want to pay full price. We got that trauma, Black folks. No, just me. Okay. This is the old me. All right. So she goes, we have a special today. She said the platinum membership is $85,000. $85,000. All right. Now, hold on one second. Unable to verify. I don't know what's going on with that. So, right. All right. So I don't know what I just did on. All right. So $85,000. And then she pauses, and then she looks back and she goes, but we have a special today. 2 people can join for $85,000. Now, if you guys have heard this, you've heard me say this many times. I don't know if you've ever had to fix your face, like what they said didn't phase you. Like I didn't even know where to put my hands when she said $85,000, because my cover was completely blown. Like she had priced me so far out of the market that I was just looking for something to bail me out so I could save face and go back to my seat. So I look over at Dimitri, and Dimitri looks back at me, and I'm looking at Dimitri to bail me out, right? He knows I ain't paying no $85,000. He goes, Otis, if we both join, that's only 42,000 and some change. I said, Dimitri, it wasn't the math that I had a problem with, right? So after he said that, so he's looking at me and she's looking at me. I said, so we're going to go talk about it. I'm just going to go back to my seat over here. And then I'll come find, are you going to be here later? You're going to be right here? Okay. We'll come find you. We're going to go, cause I don't even know if I have my Amex. We're going to go back over, and I'm flailing. So I go back to my VIP seat and I sit there and, humbled, right? And then I'm looking at these people on the floor like, oh, by the way, it wasn't $85,000, just $85,000. It was $85,000 annually. And my wheels started turning. I'm looking at these folks on the floor and I'm like, who is paying that? Like, what type of money who's paying that? And and by the way, I had inquired to have a one-on-one coaching with Tony Robbins. There was a 4-year waiting list, and it was $1 million to start for coaching. So that was another conversation I got humbled with. I was like, okay, y'all take a rush card. All right. So I'm sitting there and I'm looking at all these people. I'm like, that's crazy. And the event was so effective by day 2, kind of the middle of day 2. And by the way, folks, we get in there like 8, 9 in the morning, and we're not out of there until 2:00 in the morning, right? So by day 2, guy comes out on stage, and I had been so impacted by this event. The guy says, hey, look, we have these other events. Long story short, you get these other events. Normally they're 15 grand. We'll do them for 10 grand. And by the way, when you go to these events, You're just paying to be at the event. That is not flight. That is not hotel. So all of going to Fiji and all over the world and all that, that is separate, right? He told me it was $10,000. I jogged down to pay that $10,000 just because I was so impacted by what was going on there. And I'm a skeptic. Like, you ain't just going to tell me think positive and everything will be okay. Like, you got to add some science into to what it is you're talking about, right? But after I paid that, I left that conference and my income it 5 times over, right? It didn't double, it didn't triple, it didn't quadruple, 5 times over. And I didn't learn specifically anything new. I just learned
Unknown caller.
oops, sorry. I just looked at what I was already doing through a different set of lenses. And I was able to accomplish so much more because I paid that money. If I hadn't have paid it, maybe I'd have still been all right. But it was giving up that money and not walking out of there with anything. I was like, I'm gonna take a chair or something out of here. I'm like, I'm not just going. And that was life changing for me. And I don't have any affiliation with Tony Robbins. I just give credit where credit is due. So that's a big reason why I'm here where I am now, because it was sky's the limit after that. So it's okay to feel like something is a lot of money, because every time I turn on the internet, it looked like there's somebody on there just like me trying to scam people out of some money, especially with the real estate stuff. 95% of the people that I see online are not qualified to be teaching this stuff. They just are not. And so I got to dig through all that trash and try to surface as, the golden boy, right? So I do understand, cost can be an issue, but that was a very humbling experience, very humbling experience. She said that'll be $85,000. I was like, I think I may have pootered a little bit, to be honest with you. I was so uncomfortable with that one. But shout out to Dimitri for bringing me back and keeping me right. What's going on, entrepreneur? I see you up here.
Greetings and salutations, everybody.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. We about
How's
to.
the day going, bro?
It's good, man. We're about to wrap up. So we talked about structuring deals creatively, like what that means, right? The 4 components to do that. We talked about the 4 data points. 4 data points are 4 questions that we ask ourselves every time we are considering a real estate investment. That is, what is the cost? What is the cost to fix up? What's it going to be worth when I'm done? How much income can it generate? If we can't answer those 4 questions, then we do not move forward. All right. So, and then I tied it in to kind of a creative structure scenario, teaching people how to pay out of the exit strategy. And then, I did some rambling and some venting, but yeah, we're about to wrap it up now, bro.
Nah, man, you were giving gems in the context of glue that holds everything together, bro.
Come on now. You better say that. You better, what they say less. What's the kids say? Say less.
My bad, James. Go ahead, James. My bad.
Go ahead, James.
No, there's just a couple questions in the chat.
Let's go. Let's get them.
When we do a cash out refi, is there seasoning requirements?
Yep, it changes. So if you're using conventional financing, which means it's a mortgage product that can possibly be sold to Fannie Mae or Freddie Mac, then the seasoning requirement is typically 6 months. That's not the bank's guideline. That's Fannie and Freddie's guideline. Hard money lenders or asset-based lenders don't adhere to those guidelines. Many times they have private investors, so they can kind of set their own rules. I've seen it for a hard money lender. I've seen it as short as 1 month. I've seen it 3 months, 4 months. So that's a question you would ask the lender in the beginning. If you are going to use the lender to buy it and then refinance, they show you some grace on the seasoning period because you're with them the whole way. So yes and no, right? But that's a question that you would have to ask the lender. If you're going through conventional, it's a guaranteed yes, though.
Yeah, and for the most part, if you're doing a rehab, you don't really have to worry about seasoning. By the time your rehab's done, you can find a lender that'll take care of you.
Amen.
Next question is, how long will it take to learn to invest in apartment complex, being fresh in the program?
I can teach you. I can get you started in the process before you learn. That's important. I don't wait until people are comfortable enough to execute. Now, we have people in our real estate family that are in that curriculum, right? Right now, you get residential and multifamily together, right? So you can learn either one. The folks that have one-on-ones with me, if they get an opportunity, I say, no, we need to take down that opportunity. I don't care how comfortable you are. If I got to take the lead on this whole thing, then I'll take the lead on this whole thing. So I don't wait until you're comfortable enough, because even when you feel like you're comfortable enough, you're still not going to be ready. So I would just come in and I would kind of take the lead on certain things, hold your hand through it, and then you would learn while we're doing it. And so I wouldn't make you call the seller on your own. I wouldn't just teach you something and tell you go out there, go be great. I will get involved and we can make that the learning experience, because I think that would be more effective than coming to the classes anyway. And then you can always come back to the classes anytime you want. But I tell people, look, don't worry about the knowledge. If you don't have enough knowledge to execute, we'll leverage my knowledge to get you to where you need to be. So we can get you squared away on day one. Was that a good answer, James, or did you?
Fantastic. And that is it. That's all the questions.
All right. I just saw another question pop up, but I don't know where. Look, I get intimidated with all these buttons and all these different platforms. I saw a question pop up. I don't even know where it came from. I don't even know where it popped up. So it went away just as quick as it popped up. Again, we're redoing our website. We're updating some packages. We have some packages available on our website that I am not going to be offering to the general public. So I'm going to be taking those down. Those are going to be reserved for people that are already in our program. So we're going to do a whole revamp. For those that are interested in mentorship, go to 4datapoints.com and schedule a call. And either myself or James will get back to you, and we can just talk about it. All right. If it makes sense, go for it. If it doesn't make sense, then don't do it. But I'll tell you what, if you don't come with us, don't be a real estate investor at all. Don't join anything if you don't join. It's okay not to join with us, but I'm telling you, this is for your own protection. Just don't join anything. Sorry, I probably should have said that. I'll probably be sued now. Go ahead, sue me. You get this whole $17. All right. Any other questions? With a refi, is it contingent on your credit? For the most part, it depends. So you can have lower credit when you look at asset-based lending. They don't go just on your credit. For example, Malv Capital, they'll finance you with a 500 credit score. But what's the catch? The catch is they'll only finance you so much as far as a percentage of the value of the property. So whereas a traditional lender, you need a 700 for them to finance 80 or 90%. If you have a 500 credit score, maybe they'll just finance 50% or 60%. All right, you got to come in with 40%. But there's still a way to do that. Like the creative stuff, that's part of the reason I love being a real estate investor, because there's always a way, right? There's always a way. And it gets fun when you got to figure it out. It's like, all right, we got this deal with $40,000 short. Okay, what are we going to do? Okay, well, we can get our circle of influence. I already know how to protect them. Issue some promissory notes. We'll give them 8%, 8% in 60 days. Well, we're still outperforming any market, and that's simple interest. We're still outperforming any market on the planet for the most part. So there we can create an opportunity for them. Or we can leverage a consumer lending site for our equity position, right? Go to lendingclub.com or bestegg.com and apply that. And I'll teach you how to run the numbers so that you understand that any interest you pay on funds that you're borrowing is going to offset any return that you get. So if we're borrowing from someplace that's higher interest, then we got to work that into the deal. So I will teach people how to work these things into the deal, and there's no rush. There's no anxiety about learning. And if you miss a class, then miss the class. Get it on the next. They just start all over again when we're done. I had somebody apologize to me in our real estate family because they had their son's game. It was a football game or a basketball game. And they said, "Hey man, I'm going to try to make it. I got my son's basketball game, but I'm going to see what I can do." I said, "Don't do that. Go to your son's basketball game." Right? Like real estate investing is great, but don't chase it at the expense of a bunch of other stuff. So we're flexible, and our classes are in the evenings because we understand a lot of our real estate family, they have jobs. They got to survive, right? And we don't encourage people to just quit their job and jump into real estate investing. We discourage that. Quit your job when you're making so much in real estate investing, it no longer makes sense for you to be there. Right? That's the approach that we take. And there's a lot more things in life more important than real estate investing. right? So we teach people the right way, and then they can take it as far as they want to. You want to make $1 million? You want to make 10 million? Cool. Perfect. I got my number. And then I'm tapping out. I'm still going to be in the 4 Data Points Academy and still teaching and doing all those things, but I'm not going after, I'm going to enjoy life. We only got so many minutes left on this planet. So many minutes. And statistically, I got about 26 summers left. Statistically. So and I've already chased so many of these things at the expense of things that I thought were less important. Well, now I'm getting a little older and I'm realizing there's some things that are more important that I've had this whole time. So I didn't have the need to chase all these things. That was just an illusion. So I'll teach you how to make money. That's the easy part, right? But we also teach you how to maintain it, how to have a life where there's wealth there, right? And how do we do that? Well, mentally, you got to be able to handle that, right? You got to be able to have your tax situation taken care of. You got to have your liability protection taken care of. You got to have a component of anonymity so everybody doesn't know what you have and what you own and all these other things. You got to have that taken care of. All right. So there's a lot more than just the mechanics of investing in real estate. There's a lot of things that we teach that we can't put on the brochure. All right. All right, folks. 4datapoints.com. Go ahead. You can schedule a call. We could talk about it and we'll see if it makes sense for you to become a real estate investor. Are there any last minute questions before we tap out? Does it matter if someone already came to one seminar? No, doesn't matter. When are you guys coming to DC? So we'll probably come to DC later on this year. We're just ironing some things out. With the refis, are contingent on your credit. Okay, we already answered that one. Yeah, if you guys ever get a chance to come to our live events, do that. Definitely. We have a good time. And one of the different things that we have, as far as our seminars go or our workshops go, is we actually teach you stuff so you can, and that sounds simple, right? But a lot of seminars you go to are just marketing pitches for you to buy something a lot more expensive. We invite people to join our real estate family everywhere we go, but we teach people how to assess a deal. We teach people the creative stuff, and we teach people the potential when you get into apartment buildings. So if you ever get a chance to do our seminars, make sure you guys come to those. That being said, anybody on stage got anything that they want to add before we get out of here?
I just got a question.
Mm-hmm. Yes, sir.
You said 85,000 for the platinum. That's just to be there, or that's like a yearly membership?
That's a yearly membership, and it's 100 now.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it's 100 now. but I get it now. I get it, and I think, and I just spent $10,000, and I saw what it did for me. So being in proximity, and I'm not big on. I'm not. Okay, here we go. I'm not big on networking. But I do understand the opportunities that are presented once you get to a certain level, right? So I tell people, look, stop networking, learn how to be 100% self-sufficient. Because if you have to count on anybody on your journey up, then you are always going to be subject to the opinions and biases of those people, right? So I teach people how to be 100% self-sufficient. Then when you get up to a certain level, then you can network because you got there on your own. I get a lot of people that are like starting companies and they're looking for funding in the beginning. And I tell them, look, if you haven't made $1 million yet, don't look for funding. Don't look for investors. Don't look for any of that. Because you've got to get to the $1 million mark so you can iron out all of these things that make you ready to run a company, right? Typically now it's a scaling conversation. A lot of people don't realize that. So with the platinum membership, I'm all for it. I think you got to get to a certain level first so you can reap the benefits of that, right? So it's kind of a double-edged sword with me, but if you got 100 grand and you want to do it. I know some people that were in the platinum membership. I couldn't do it. At the end of the thing, they did the fire walk. Anybody ever did the fire walk with Tony Robbins? So it was where they had 40 fire pits out there and you're supposed to walk across the coals. My blackness kicked in like at the last second. Like I was on board. And it's so funny how we just how do I articulate this? It's so funny how we all tell ourselves stories, and these stories keep us from reaching our maximum potential, right? My story was black people don't walk across no fiery coals. That's just not. And I could tell it was some others, the same story for some other black folks there, because we were walking to the fire pits. None of us wanted to make eye contact with each other because we knew it was going to be like, you ain't supposed to be up here walking on this damn fire, right? But I chickened out, by the way. But I went up to, but I was lined up at one of the fire pits, and Tony Robbins gave instructions, and he was like, "Look, don't run. There's no trick to it. Do exactly what I tell you. I'm gonna tell you what to say. I'm gonna tell you what to think. I'm gonna tell you where to look, and all that, right?" So he said, "Look, there's always somebody that gets burned up. First dude that went across the fire pit, what burn?" He tried to run, and he was just like, it didn't go well, and that took me out. I was like, yeah, I'm not going to be the guy that didn't listen to all the instructions and waited till I got in the middle of a fire pit to realize I was the guy who didn't hear all the instructions. Now there was another girl, a young lady, and she's brilliant too, by the way. Young lady, and she was getting spooked, but they kept hyping her up and hyping her up. So she walked across this fire pit slower than the guy did, and she did everything to a T that Tony Robbins said that she was supposed to do, and she didn't have a mark on her feet. And I said, "You have got to be kidding me! This mind over matter stuff." And it gave me some insight into how powerful the mind really is. But it's a double-edged sword, because if we don't teach it to work for us, then it's only going to work against us. And I was able to see that come to fruition in some of these exercises. So I'm not giving it justice. If you guys get a chance to go to one of the UPW events with Tony Robbins, go ahead and do it. I don't have a dog in that fight. I don't get paid for referring people there. I'm just giving you an honest opinion. So anyway, that's my story, folks. We are about to wrap up. 4datapoints.com. You can go there. The number 4, DATAPOINTS. You can schedule a call with us. We will get back to you today. We'll have a conversation about your expectations, and I will give you some insight into the real estate investing world and how far you can go with it. A lot of people in our program, they were following me, 2 years before that. So they already had a pretty good idea of who I was. But if you're curious, schedule a call. We will be there to take care of you. Normally, I have some corny music, and I don't think I can find it to go out. You folks on Clubhouse, thank you for rocking with me. Tuesdays and Thursdays, 9 a.m. We're going to be doing this. Folks on TikTok, you guys are new, because my old profile, they held up my age verification for 8 months. They didn't believe I was as old as I said I was. And Instagram and
Yeah, I'm
Facebook.
following you on TikTok, by the way.
You following me on TikTok?
Yeah.
Yeah, a lot of
You get my
stuff.
message I sent you about Warren Buffett
On TikTok or on oh no,
Yeah.
was it a real long
on
message?
TikTok.
Was it it was a long message.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's, man, I'm
Mhm.
so rushed during the day that it's like, man, I couldn't even get back to all the happy birthday wishes. Everybody that wished me happy birthday for my for February 26th, my birthday, my 49th birthday. Shout out to you guys, man. I appreciate y'all. I looked at all of them. I just could not get back to everybody, but I really appreciate it. That being said, I'm cueing the corny music, and